Trump to raise tariffs on Canada by 10% over Ontario's Reagan ad. Also, why 10%? Why not 100%? Why not 1,000,000%? If you're going to just slap numbers based on how you're feeling or whatever direction the wind is blowing without any analysis, anything data-driven, or at the very least a serious consultation with your foreign affairs staff, then why 10%? Seriously, why not just go full drama? 1,000,000%, 1,000,000,000%. Let's see what he has to say.
Sir, what's your view on what Canada needs to do to get things back on track?
Well, Canada lied. I mean, what they did was terrible. They made up a fake statement by President Reagan. Reagan was a big supporter of tariffs when needed. And we need tariffs for national security, and they totally turned it around because they're getting hurt by tariffs and we're gaining by tariffs. They've used tariffs on us when we had different presidents very successfully, and they've taken a lot of money out of our country, and now we're taking it all back. And so they went out and they made a fake commercial. The Reagan Foundation went crazy when they saw it because it was, the opposite. Was the opposite of what Ronald Reagan liked tariffs, and when necessary, he would use tariffs. We're in very good shape with that, but they took a commercial saying the exact opposite, Canada. So I'm very disappointed in Canada. They lied. I mean, it was a fraud what they did. Really, I don't think there's much they can do. I just assume leave it the way it is. If you leave it the way it is, it's very good for us.
Will you meet with Prime Minister Carney during this trip?
I don't have any intention of it, no.
Canada lied? What do you think Canada is? It's a collection of people. A huge collection of people doesn't ever have uniform agreement on basically anything. So first of all, it's not like all Canadians sat down and collectively made an ad, and collectively paid for the ad, and collectively uploaded an ad. It's important to distinguish people, leadership, and Canada as a country, and I don't think we're doing that here. And when he says that he was disappointed in Canada, in what exactly? The leadership, the Prime Minister, the last batch of maple syrup that he had for breakfast? The fact Canada is having its own diversification strategy, maybe? Man. Let's not forget for a moment the following. The International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, is a 1977 U.S. federal law that grants the president the authority to regulate international commerce during a national emergency. So apparently an advert on TV is a national emergency. Okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, this reminds me a bit of those times on Facebook where you could just click, I'm in this photo and I don't like it. We discussed the other day at length how all of this commotion over the Reagan ad is likely just refocusing people on something far different, on precisely what Trump might be attempting to conceal here. Check that one out if you missed it, because the economic situation in the US is a bit perplexing. We'll discuss the whole purpose of this chaos in the media in a second, but just a quick word. If this kind of analysis involving critical thought resonates with you, my upcoming book, Awake, might be your thing. It comes out at the end of October, and you can join the waitlist now to get early access on a discounted launch price. And if you want to support this kind of work directly, I'm on Ko-fi as well. Every contribution helps. Links are below. Now, at first glance, Trump's constant theatrics can feel like a personal flaw, like we're just watching an emotionally volatile man spiral on a world stage. And while that is a part of the picture, I don't think it's the whole picture. The deeper, more strategic layer, in my view, is this. The chaos is the point. The non-stop feuds, the sudden tariff threats, the inflammatory headlines, they all serve to wear people down, because when the public is exhausted, they disengage. And when they disengage, he controls the narrative by default. Now, this is not about convincing voters. It's more about draining them. If you flood the zone with drama, the average citizen loses track of what actually matters. The electorate begins to glaze over. Today's scandal blurs into yesterday's tweet storm. And once people are too tired to care, it becomes easier to shift norms, rewrite rules, or abuse emergency powers without triggering mass opposition. Fatigue becomes political capital. So when you catch yourself thinking, this is too much, I can't keep up with this guy, first of all, you're not alone, we're all a bit exhausted. But second of all, you were meant to feel this way. That's the point. Trump wins when you tune out, and if enough people do, he doesn't even need to win the argument, just the silence itself. At a certain point, repeated institutional chaos isn't just a one-off incident, it becomes a pattern, and that pattern is a warning sign. Trump's latest outbursts, like all the ones before it, shouldn't be seen in isolation. It's part of a broader takedown in how American political power operates these days, more personalized, less restrained, and increasingly allergic to accountability. We've seen this movie before, by the way, not just in fiction, but in history. In Italy, Silvio Berlusconi used personal scandals and media theatrics to dominate public attention for over a decade. His style was not an accident, it was a legitimate strategy. Flood the discourse with so much noise that no one could focus on the legal or economic consequences of his leadership. In Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro followed a similar playbook: emotional volatility, culture war, and institutional erosion, all packed as anti-elitist populism. And in both cases, the country didn't snap all at once. It cracked slowly year by year as citizens either tuned out or got drawn into the emotional churn. America, in my view, is now showing signs of the same stress fractures. Trumpism isn't just some isolated fever dream, it is the symptom of a system under extreme pressure. A system where traditional checks and balances are being outpaced by the speed of spectacle. And here is the uncomfortable truth, my friends. Trumpism isn't ending, but it is mutating. It's shifting from a man into a method, a playbook that others are watching, learning from, and adopting. The crack, in my view, is definitely spreading, so please, we have to stay alert to this. And then, of course, look who we have here supporting our hunches.
The problem that we are seeing right now is that our current president and his administration is explicitly saying that we want to change the rules of the game midstream in order to insulate ourselves from the people's judgment.
Barack Obama doesn't often wade directly into a news cycle, so when it does, you should really pay attention. In this clip, he lays out the issue with sharp clarity that the current administration isn't just bending the rules, it's actually trying to rewrite them midstream, not to serve the country, but to shield itself from electoral accountability. They are proposing redistricting, and not as a part of a legal or demographic process, but it's being weaponized preemptively, not after a census is required by law, but at a moment when the ruling party feels insecure about the next election. And as Obama notes later in this clip, they're not even pretending otherwise. This isn't quiet manipulation. It's brazen, undisguised rule tampering done because they just think that they can. We discuss how Trump and his companies have actually earned $1 billion from their crypto ventures since he became president in just under 1 year, passing laws that support the crypto businesses that he has. Check out that video. It's full of packed data-driven info. And also about the tariffs themselves, the Supreme Court isn't even sure that they're legal. We discussed this as well, and I linked the video here as well if you want to check that out as well, because they're only meant to be used in emergencies. But is a Reagan ad a legit emergency? So when a former president speaks up like Obama did, especially one who still holds enormous global credibility, it's not just casual commentary. This is a constitutional alarm bell. Red flags are being raised. The sirens are off. The people are protesting. Presidents don't usually go after their successors directly, and Obama knows the weight of his words as well. His intervention here tells us that the demographic norms underpinning U.S. governance are no longer eroding slowly in the background. Rather, they're being openly challenged in real time. The fact that he calls on states like California to counteract federal abuse is particularly telling. It signals a growing fear that the checks and balances at the federal level may no longer be functioning as intended, leaving it up to local leadership to preserve the basic conditions for free elections. This is not a fringe concern. This is a former president saying the game is being rigged in real time, and he's not using any metaphors. It's a live attempt to reshape the playing field for partisan gain. Something that, if left unchecked, would make electoral outcomes less about the will of the people and more about the manipulations of those in power. So, Canada being slapped with 10% tariffs, positive framework agreed for Trump-Xi summit, great, good for them. But just FYI, if the USA loses the legs of its democracy, a 10% tariff won't scratch the surface of the terror we'd all be facing.